Hey, hello and welcome to this wonderful chat. We have Emma Arden here, who is our EFT tapping expert, and you do coaching for children and adults, do you? Do you work
Yes,
with adults?
I
Yeah,
work
I
with
thought.
adults. I've always worked with
Yeah.
adults, and I've added children in sort of more recently into my career, but I've always worked with adults. So I work now with both adults and children.
Brilliant. And so my name is Natasha. I am a family yoga teacher and I work with supporting families, yoga teachers, caregivers in supporting children playfully and in ways that really make sense to our children to get them practicing in a way that feels fun and accessible for them. And I think we share a mission here for sharing this passion for well-being. And so I'd love to hear more about what you do.
Okay. So I'm Emma. My business is Ela Nedra Health, and I am a multi-skilled therapist. I've been a therapist for 25 years now, trained in many, many different things. I'm a Reiki Master Teacher, and that's sort of where it all began. Started with healing. And from Reiki, everything has sort of come from there. I've done lots of body work, so Thai massage, all types of massage, colon hydrotherapy. I was a colonic therapist, herbal medicine, nutrition, you name it. And everything that I was doing was always because there was something missing. I was always missing something when the clients were coming to me. I was like, I need to learn something more. So I'd go and learn something more. And then I finally found EFT about, I'd love to say 15 years ago, but it's probably more than that now. I always say 15 years, and I realize that time keeps moving on. A long time ago, I found EFT, and for me, it was like, that's what's been missing. That sort of clicked in all the things that I've been using as a therapist. This for me was the thing that I really needed to elevate, really. So I've been working with one-to-one clients, adults and children. I do group workshops, I do events, healing events. I train EFT and I train Reiki. So I'm a Reiki teacher and I'm an EFT trainer. So yeah, I'm sort of now in the stage of really having my mission to sort of get EFT really out to the masses. So when Natasha had a chat and said, should we have a little talk? And I was like, yes, absolutely, because this is a game changer for kids and adults.
Yeah, and I really wanted to talk to you because, as I say, we do share some same interests, and I think people that follow me, people that follow you, there's that common interest of children's well-being, looking after them and supporting them. And EFT is something I have quite recently got into myself. So I'd want to say the past year I've been practicing, and sometimes I've been practicing this every morning as part of my morning routine. And I've maybe done it a few times with the kids, but not many. Just from little videos or recordings. And so when I saw the work you do and we connected, I thought, what a great opportunity to have a chat about this and share about it, because like I hadn't heard about it until recently, and I'm sure a lot of
Yeah.
people have either not heard about it or have heard a little bit about it and want to find out really what it's all about. But the first thing I want to ask you before we get into what it is what initially motivated you? Because you've done all these things, these other things. So what was it about this that made you go, that is what I want to do? This is what I want to devote my work to?
I think it has to come down to how I found it. So I've got hair in my eye. I was in Thailand doing a detox, a juice fast, and this guy came in and did a little talk about EFT. I mean, it helped that he looked like Brad Pitt, but he gave a little talk about EFT, and he got some people, he asked for volunteers and got up, and I sort of did a little session with him, and I was like, well, this is interesting. I'd sort of started my healing journey, if you like. I'd started all my work. I'd started working with people, clients, and I was doing my own inner work. So I was in Thailand for quite a long time. So I did some sessions with him, some one-to-one sessions with him. And I previously had started some therapy, talk therapy, with a different type of therapist. I won't say, because I'm not poo-pooing anything else. But what I found with the other type of therapy was that I wasn't getting into the places that I really needed to get. Like, I like to call it like turning all of those stones that have been missed, you know, all those things that just, what is it that I'm missing that I'm still feeling stuck with? And with EFT, it just went straight in there really, really fast. You get, and the work that we did in a very, very short amount of time was so game changing for me. Like, I really understood myself really well. I understood what my stories were. I understood why I was reacting and why I was feeling triggered. And for me, I'm highly neurodivine. So making connections was really, really important for me. I was like, oh, that makes sense. That's why I act this way. And I wasn't getting those kind of connections with any other type of therapy, but with EFT, it was just so fast. So I came home and I immediately was like, right, I need to learn this. I need to learn this. This is what's been missing. I want to do this for my clients, you know? So I immediately started training. I'm now an advanced practitioner, and I've written a course. But yeah, that's why I first got into it, and that is why I became really passionate about it really fast, because I just thought, if it works for me and I'm on my healing journey, then I know then it can work for other people too. So.
I think that's so important when we work with things like this, is that we are embodying the practice, and we can understand why it's important that we're sharing it. And so
Yeah.
that's beautiful. Thanks for sharing. And so, how do you describe the mission and heart behind everything that you do today?
Mm. Well, when I first started my healing journey, the very first thing I did was Reiki. And my mum introduced me to that. Before that, I was a business manager, which is many, many years ago now. And when I first started Reiki and I came into all the sort of the natural health, I came into this natural health world, if you like. I really sort of jumped in feet first, and it was just a real sort of explosion of everything natural and healing. And my mum said to me, "Oh, I'm so pleased finally you've come home. I always knew that you're a healer, and I always knew this was your calling in life. But I also knew, because you're such a maverick and you're so neurodivine, that you needed to find this for yourself. Like, I couldn't push you here. I couldn't force you to this place. You had to find this place yourself." So when I did, she was just like, "Oh, brilliant, you're home." And that felt like that for me as well. It felt like, oh yes, I felt like I'd come into my heart and I'd come home. And then once I was in my heart, I wanted to allow other people to find their core and their heart and their home. And that's why this work is so passionate for me. It's like, this is, you know, when you do the work, it's not always crystals and roses, but when you do the work and you commit to it, the rewards that you get are really beautiful, and everything in your life starts to change. It's like this beautiful ripple effect. So I'd say that's the sort of the reason why I do this work.
I love that. And you can tell just by your energy when you're talking about it that it's something that you do feel really, really connected to and really passionate about. So that really does come through. And why then? Why EFT? What is it? And is it different when you work with children? So what is the difference between, so what is it? How is it different from adults and children?
So EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. And it's, as it says on the tin, we are accessing emotions and giving ourselves freedom from them. And often those feelings that we're having, we don't really know what they are or understand them. So what EFT is really good at doing is understanding what it is that we're feeling, validating it, and allowing ourselves to reframe it and move to something different. So we're not always going for a positive, immediate positive thing. We are sometimes just accepting and understanding where we are right now. So it's a really great tool for validation. So when you're working with adults, that's wonderful, because we've got a whole list of laundry that we need to go through, and we're picking through all those beliefs. And so it gives us an opportunity to really make connections and understand and validate and allow ourselves. When we're working with kids, it's slightly different. So you're not necessarily going straight into the jugular for all of those core issues. You're working in a more of a, I like to call it more of a global way, but you can still be very specific. So it wouldn't be so intense. I wouldn't be sort of going straight in and really sort of getting all the nuts and bolts with a child straight away. I'd be a little bit softer, if you like. But what it does for children, and this, what it also does for adults, is it's really validating. And when we validate ourselves, we feel heard, we feel seen. That is when we can flourish with confidence and our boundaries, and making good choices and making good decisions and really standing by those choices and decisions. But that has to come from within us, and EFT is a great way to find that confidence and find what might be in the way of having that confidence. So the tapping that we use and the points that we use are all based on acupuncture meridians, very deep meridians. So just tapping the points alone is really, really healing, and it can bring up all kinds of feelings and emotions that we didn't even know were there. So it's a somatic therapy that allows us to come into our body and slightly come out of our heads, and our heads are always slightly in the way of our healing, really, because we're trying to think our way through healing, and we can't think our way through healing. We've got to feel our way through healing. So what EFT does, it combines that element of cognitive and somatic, so it works with the brain and the body together, and that combination is what gets you these amazing breakthroughs.
I love that. And even as you're saying it, it's like, that's what I've been doing when I've been doing my tapping. That's what's been going on. So it's nice to kind of understand, not just do it, but then understand why you're doing it and what it's actually doing for our body, for our emotional well-being.
There's a lot of science behind it as well, actually.
Yeah, because I think that validating is so important with well-being, because there's so many well-being things out there that just try and skip straight to, hey, let's feel good and amazing.
Yeah, and that's not, and
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, Natasha. Yeah. That's not always the thing, and actually, especially with children, is often children are not allowed to feel what they're feeling. They're told to be quiet, they're told to calm down, they're told to stop being excited, stop being angry, stop being sad. They're told to stop doing something all the time. So what is amazing with EFT is like, oh, I'm allowed to feel this, and I'm allowed to feel it until it moves through my body and it's not there anymore. And it's sort of like you get an entry and an exit point, rather than sort of this a feeling that just stays there and gets stagnant and stuck. So it's, oh, I'm allowed to feel angry about that, because actually that was really upsetting. And that is really powerful for a child, to actually have some control, because often they don't have a lot of control. They're being told every day to do something by an adult.
Yeah.
Stop playing, stop doing this. We're going to the shops. I don't want to go to the shops. I'm playing. I don't want you to stop. I don't want you to play. I want you to come to the shops. And even that for a child is like, oh, I want to just do what I want to do. So having a tool where they can actually control themselves and validate their own feelings and control their nervous system is just, it's just beautiful.
It's so, and me and Becky talk about this a lot in our yoga classes. Like, we help children to calm down, but we meet their energy where they are first. It's not like, hey, everyone, just lay down and shut up. You have to meet them where they are, and you have to help them, support them in winding down. And as you say, that comes from validating and recognizing the child in front of you first, recognizing how they are feeling without just trying to skip to the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Like,
allowing them as well. Yeah,
allowing them is the key. It's absolutely part of EFT for me. The game changer in EFT for me is that you are allowed to have all these feelings, and they're all valid because they've come from some part of your past. You felt that because something in your past happened. So to say that that's not true isn't fair or real. Okay, it was true at that point, but it might not be true now. And that's where the difference is. So it's like making those connections. Like at some point, that's how you felt. But is that true right now? You know, and that's where this tool is so brilliant. And the language comes from neuralistic programming. So we're using very specific language. So the combination of tapping the points and using this very specific language, that's where the magic starts to happen. When you get a therapist really sort of tuned in, you know, you get some really good magic there. It's my crystal, by the way, if you're wondering what that is.
Oh yeah, I love that. What's that one?
I'm holding a crystal.
Oh, I love it. What crystal's that one?
This is fluorite.
Oh, look at that. It's amazing.
It's nice. I thought you had like a little remote in your hand or something.
To tell people what I'm holding, because I'm like this whole time and I'm thinking, what is she doing? I'm like, this is a really, it's my healing crystal that I always use.
Oh, beautiful. So we talked about it a little bit, but how do you think EFT helps children's well-being? So thinking really like specifically, how do you think it helps?
So in a nutshell, it gives them their own power back. It gives them control, and it gives them power. So what EFT can do for a child is let a child really understand what's happening for them in that moment and have something to change that moment into something different. So if they're feeling really angry or they're really, really sad, but they can't articulate that and they don't understand why, because often children don't always have the words to explain what's happening. They just know they have a feeling. They just feel really cross or they feel really sad, but they can't articulate that. What EFT does is it allows them to understand what they're actually feeling in that moment. And then it allows them to move through that to something different. It gives them an opportunity to say, actually, I choose to feel strong in this moment, or I choose to feel confident in this moment. So it has that ability to recognize where they are. I'm feeling angry, but I have a choice to feel something different. And that is really, really powerful for a child to teach them that at that young age. I mean, gosh, if I'd have had this when I was a child. If I'd have had this technique.
Young. Yeah, totally. That's how I feel. If we can incorporate this and add this to children's lives now at a young age, hopefully they'll, flourish from this, won't they?
Yeah, they probably won't need a therapist like me in 20 years' time.
And they have had it.
But they'll have the tools. Like, when I've been doing workshops with kids, it's so beautiful when I ask kids, where do you think you might be able to do some tapping if you're feeling a bit stressed? And your hands go, because they're desperate. And some of the places that they tell me that they can go and do some tapping, I love it. Like in the toilet, I said, absolutely. You go into the toilet, you're feeling really upset, so you do a bit of tapping, and then it calms you down. And then one of the children said, in the library, in the cupboard. I'm like, yeah, you can get into the cupboard if you want to. In the bush, in the garden. I said, yes, you can go. The idea that they can have something for themselves,
absolutely,
and go away and regulate themselves just in a few rounds of tapping, full rounds of tapping, is just amazing. That they know that they can do that because they can monitor how they feel before and after, and they know how they feel before and after. And we use this system, to help, explain how do you feel now and how do you feel afterwards. So they can do that, and that is just so, like I said before, it gives them confidence, it gives them strong boundaries, it gives them their self-worth will be increased because they know that they can do something for themselves.
And it's like a release as well, isn't it? It's like a release for them. They're not suppressing things, That's the thing where you feel like as an adult you kind of suppress things. So
and embarrassed, adults are often embarrassed of their emotions. We're embarrassed of feeling sad or embarrassed and feeling angry, and we try and sort of stop that. But actually teaching a child that they're allowed to have every single emotion, they're all important and they're all valid, and they can move through those emotions to something different. That is just, it's beautiful.
It is. It's absolutely magic, really.
And I think teaching them as well, as you say, asking them, when can you use this? I think that's so important, because we can practice stuff with them all day long, but if they don't know, can I practice this on my own? Can I practice this somewhere else? And by having those conversations and being like, you can use it here, it gets them thinking and go, okay, I have that tool in my toolkit now. And there was one moment with one of the children I work with, and they were sharing about, because I always said, when can you use this? And one of the best ones that's always stuck out for me is they were at the arcade on a claw machine. And
Love it.
And they were getting really stressed and frustrated with this. And they stopped and they said, what would Natasha do?
I love that. What would Natasha do?
And then they started to breathe. They started to calm down, and they won.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love it.
And that is the best. That was the best story I've ever heard of. Of when to use yoga or these.
But
that's
great that they actually did that, and they, you know, you've helped them through that. That's fantastic.
It is, yeah. So it doesn't even have to be anything like big. It could be as simple as an arcade machine, because frustration is frustration, stress is stress.
And just a few rounds of tapping, you know, often I say you need to do about 3 full rounds. You can move something that feels here down to here, or if you're working with larger children, you'd use numbers, so like 10 to a 4 or 10 to a 3. You know, if you're at a stress level of 10, it's really difficult to function. If your stress moves down to like a 2 or a 3, much easier to navigate.
Right.
So when you, and just 2 or 3 rounds will often do that. And then if something increases or becomes more, then you just do more tapping. You just do another few rounds. And if it becomes more intense, then you realize, right, I need to do some. The child wouldn't, and as an adult, you say, right, I need to do some work here. And so if you're working with, go on.
Sorry, because I might, you know, last night I went to parents' evening for my son. He'll do his GCSEs next year. And I felt it overwhelming, the amount of pressure.
Yeah.
You know, he's 15 in July. And I was quite, you know, my husband was very much like, no, this is good. And, you know, he's very clear. But I was kind of feeling, I said to them, I feel a bit overwhelmed because there's a lot of pressure for, you know, my son. So actually the tapping, I could help Fred with that, really, introducing that. I think he'd be open to it.
Funnily enough, on one of my tapping Tuesdays, I did one on overwhelm. So one of my videos, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I do a tapping Tuesday every single Tuesday, just a free on EFT sort of quick session that I do. And I did it exactly on overwhelm. So it's like, you know, 90 seconds because it's real, 90 seconds of tapping, and you just repeat it over and over again and just see how that feels. So yeah, try that and see how you get on.
And I will send all these links out in the email as well. So all this will be available. So what is a key insight you've gained or a lesson you've learned along your journey with tapping?
Oh my God, there's so many. There honestly is so many, but I think the biggest lesson that I've learned is how to access kindness and love for yourself. And that's something that sounds really sort of simple, but actually it's really not. To say, oh, I love myself or I accept myself, for people that's really hard to say, because often they don't accept themselves. There's loads of things that they're nitpicking in the, even if they're not saying it out loud, their brain's thinking, oh, I don't like the way my hair is, I don't like the way my this falls, I don't like that, and you know, or I'm not clever enough, or whatever those, you know, negative voices are. What tapping has done for me and for many of my clients is learning how to soften and be kind and gentle to that inner child that's within us, you know, that inner child that really needs to be talked to in a loving, kind way. So if we talk to ourselves in a kind, loving way, then we've got a better chance to figure out what is triggering us and making us feel stuck in our life. If we're constantly telling ourselves off, God, you're so silly, Emma, you know, why can't you just buck up and do that, which is the inside voices that we have. It's really hard. It's like, you know, you would never ever scream at a child who's feeling really sad, but that's what we do to ourselves with our inside voices without even realizing. So what tapping has done for me is really allowed me personally, and now all my clients, to really access those levels of self-love and kindness and acceptance for what is, and knowing that everything that we do and have done was our best at that moment in time. So that would be like, I think, you know, because I do a lot of inner child work and I do a lot of shadow work with clients, not necessarily with children, but if we don't do that work, it will become something problematic later. So if we start tapping with kids now, they're not going to have so many issues with their inner child because they're working with them as they go along. So it's about really self-worth, acceptance, and self-love.
Brilliant. So we're going to have time for a quick Q&A. We're going to have a little tapping demo, if that's
Great.
okay. But before we get to that, I would love to hear about the course you have coming up. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so like I said before, tapping for me is like a love poem to my own inner child. I'm really highly neurodivine, and when I was a child, it was never diagnosed, so I really struggled with my world as a child. It was difficult to process the world, and so this course that I wrote is like a love poem to my inner child. It's like, if I can give this tool to so many children who may be struggling to process their world for different reasons, for every reason, then this is like the gift that I can sort of give out. So I teamed up with Beam Academy, who work with children, mindfulness and yoga as well in London. And I wrote this course, which is a one-day workshop to work with children, but it's for adults to learn how to use tapping with children. So it's a CPD course, which is continual professional development. So if you are a therapist or you're a teacher or any professional in any sort of way, you'll get credits for doing this workshop, which is great. It's one day live on Zoom, and you'll learn what EFT is, some of the science behind it, the intricate ways of what it does. I will teach you sort of several different techniques that you can actually implement and then go and use with children straight away. And by the end of the day, you'll feel really confident to start using EFT with children, either with a one-to-one or in little small groups. So it's like a really lovely interactive workshop where I teach you and show you, and everyone gets to practice how to use this technique in lots of different ways. I show you different ways to use it, because there are lots of different ways you can use tapping. So yeah, it's a one-day workshop. I run it sort of 3 or 4 times a year. The next one is June the 8th. And then once you've done the workshop, you'll get a certificate, you'll get a CPD certificate, and then you can go ahead and you can start working with your own children. You can go into schools, you can go into nurseries, you can do little assemblies and just do little group tapping workshops. It's just, my passion is the more adults I teach, the more children will get to use this. So I'm teaching the adults, so the adults can then go and spread the love with the children. So that's what this course is about, teaching adults how to implement this really amazing technique with children.
That's great. And again, I'll send all the details of that out so you can have a look through and see what it's all about. And have you got any questions?
Well, trying to think now. There's just I'm just intrigued how, because I teach preschool and the primary school, but I'm just kind of intrigued what you would, what would you recommend as a starter for, like, especially the preschool children? I feel like they absorb so much.
I would suggest coming on my course.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Which is on June the 8th. So when I go into schools, I always work with similar age groups together because their needs, as you just said, are very, very different. So a group of very small children, 5 or 6 year olds, you're more likely to use less words and do more sort of game playing with tapping. With sort of 7-year-olds upwards, I find that they are much more able to and willing to start using a lot of the words that we use and incorporate with tapping.
Right.
So, and I always make it very interactive with groups and let the kids sort of really be part of it. And but I would, on the course, I would show you how to do that. But it's always, what I would always do in a group is get them to check in with themselves first and show me with their hands or show me with numbers and on their fingers how that intense that feeling is. And once they've checked in with that, we always start on what the karate point here. This is what I call the sort of like the coming in, checking in, coming into the body, and like, how are you feeling? How's the day been? And you kind of like rate that feeling. And then once we've done some tapping, how does that feel now? Does it feel different? You know, and often your children will say, yeah, it feels very different. And some people will be very vocal, some people won't say anything. But I would say it's about really gauging the group, because whatever I do in a
Yes,
group is going to be different.
of
I have to
course.
work with the energy. Sometimes you get a bunch of kids who are
You're
really
right.
like
So
really
right.
attentive, and they
It
really
does.
want to look. And other times they're like doing cartwheels and roly polies around the room, you know. So you've got to
I'm
work
so
with that.
finding that at the moment. I'm
Yeah.
just kind of feeling that the preschool, the nursery children are
Oh
just
yeah.
so engaging at the moment. I'm finding the primary school ones a little bit more challenging,
Yeah.
whereas the preschool are just like absorbing it all. They're incredible. And that's what I'd be interested in the preschool.
I had this beautiful duo. The parent wanted to for me to do a tapping workshop with her kids, and she brought them both together, but they were completely different ages, and it was just hilarious to see them. So literally, one was doing cartwheels in my living room, and the other one was sitting there like a meerkat, like so like engaged with everything, and was like
No, that's
doing
so true.
everything.
So
You know, and
true.
really frustrated that her sister was like running around looking at all my crystals and just like, you know. But actually, the other one, when we finished the session, the other one was like, "I want to come back, mummy," because the thing with the thing with tapping, and this is one thing to always remember, you get this thing called borrowed effects, right? So when you're doing it in groups, it's such an energetic practice, and you're all tapping together. So the mum was tapping, I was tapping, and the daughter, who was like a meerkat, was tapping. We were all tapping together. So there's this collective energy now that is now being created, and you get these borrowed. So even though the other one was like cartwheeling around the room, she was still receiving that energy and still receiving that sort of
exactly.
And hearing the words and hearing what we were saying, and you know, and occasionally she'd stop and start tapping on her body, and so you know, you get these borrowed effects, and so it's, you know, you don't have to worry about, oh my goodness, that person isn't doing all the points in the right way, because you get this conscious collectiveness when you're working in groups. Of
course you do. Yeah.
I love that. So would you be able to give us a demo of one of the tappings you do?
Yeah, I mean, one of them is, I don't sort of work like that. I work in a very organic way, and I work with whatever I need to do. So why don't we work with something you talked about, Rebecca? You said you were feeling very overwhelmed. So, you know, maybe we could just do a little bit on that at the moment. How would that feel?
Yeah, great.
I always work very naturally. I had all kinds of things that I thought I might do today, but as you were talking, I was thinking that feels really good. So let's just take a breath in.
I'm just going to close my curtains. 1 minute. 1 minute. Sorry, I just like silence. Yeah, my husband was talking outside quite loud.
So I don't know how much you know about tapping. So if you, just for the sake of time, if you just copy and follow everything I do. So we start here. This is the karate point, and you can use either your left or your right hand. It doesn't matter. You can switch easily. This is what is the karate chop, and it's like the opening the door, if you like. It's like coming in and checking in. It's like a really good way to sort of figure out what's going on, and you can do some breathing here. So I'll just quickly go through the points to make sure you know where they are, and then we'll get going. So the first point is on the eyebrow here. So you just literally tap here. And when you're working with kids, you might want to do what I call sprinkles or butterflies, so you can get all of the points. So you can just tap here, or you can get them to sort of do this, because especially with younger kids, as you were talking about, Rebecca, when you've got younger kids, they're kind of like, they start doing really weird, they kind of copying you, and they're kind of like, you know, in funny places. So the sprinkling is really good, because then you know that they get, because these are acupuncture points. The next one is the side of the eye, so it's just here. And again, you can do sort of sprinkles if that feels more comfortable. You can do one hand, you can do the other, or you can do both. I like to do both.
Yeah, I like both.
Yeah, feels good. And the next one is underneath the eye. And you're just tapping very gently. So I've got fun names that I use for kids as well, but I won't give those away yet. But we've got so these are the adult points under the eye, but I've created these fun names for kids so kids can remember the points really quickly. Under the nose, you might be able to guess some of them as we go through them. And then on the chin, and each of these points has an acupressure point and has an emotional element to it as well. So some of them are, you know, promoting confidence, helping with embarrassment, shame, guilt, all those types of things. So these points are, you know, really, it's like doing acupuncture without needles.
Yeah.
And then the collar point. So if you go to your collar and you just come a little bit down to that little spongy bit there, that's where the next point is. But again, if you go all the way across your chest, you're not going to miss that. I mean, you can guess what this one would be. The child's point. And then the next one is underneath the armpits. So where your a bra strap would be, if you're wearing a bra or a vest, the top of the vest. If you're wearing a vest, as I'm working with kids, I say where the top of your vest is.
Yeah.
And I tend to use this sort of part of my hand, because if you do that, it can be quite diggy. But whatever you want to do, I tend to sort of go like this. So I'm sort of using that. Otherwise, it's a bit diggy.
Yeah.
And this is a point underneath here. Again, no prizes if you guess what this one is.
Yeah.
And then the very top one is the top of the head. Again, if you want to tap all the way around, you're never going to miss that. So you kind of make sure
And
that.
do you close your eyes or not? Is it?
So it depends what we're doing, right?
Yeah.
So if we're just going to do a tap and breathe, I would say close your eyes. If we're going to use words, it depends if you know the. So we'll come back to the hands. This is a good one. When we're talking, it's difficult to sort of stay up here. And there are finger points as well if you wanted to use finger points. So these are great when you're, you know, so if you're feeling a bit nervous and you out in public and you can't sort of do everything, you can just do the fingers. And no one really thinks that it usually looks like they're tapping to the music or whatever.
I saw a lady in the sauna doing this the other day.
Yeah.
She was doing this one.
Yeah, this one, karate.
Yeah.
Yes, you can do it. I mean, you know, because often people wouldn't notice you if you're doing this in public or you're doing this in public. People wouldn't really think too much, and it's and you could just be speaking in your mind's eye, you know, saying things in your mind's eye. So what we're going to do is we're going to just do something very, very gentle right now. So you were talking about overwhelm. So let's just come into that feeling in the body. And just check in, take a breath, and just notice how it feels in life sometimes when things are a bit overwhelming. Notice if there's anything particular in your life that feels overwhelming. Notice if there's an event that has been overwhelming. Things on your to-do list feels overwhelming, exams, all these types of things in life. Just checking and taking a moment to feel what overwhelm feels like. And just maybe tell me, as we start, how intense that might feel for you. 10 being really high, 1 being really low. How might that feel for you right now?
Am I telling you? Probably 5.
Yeah, so about medium. Natasha, how's your overwhelm feeling in life at the moment?
I'd say maybe a 4.
Oh, pretty low. That's not too bad. We're not working with something too high then. So we're just going to start tapping. Even though I can feel overwhelmed sometimes. And you're going to copy, and everything I say, you're going to repeat. Even though I feel overwhelmed sometimes.
Even though I feel overwhelmed sometimes.
Yeah. I choose to trust the flow of life.
I choose to trust the flow of life.
Yeah. So let's come to the eyebrow point. Sometimes life can feel overwhelming.
Sometimes life can feel overwhelming.
Side of the eye. And I understand that.
And I understand that.
And I'm not always in control of everything that's happening.
I'm not always in control of everything that's happening.
And I can feel so overwhelmed.
And I can feel so overwhelmed.
It becomes quite intense.
It becomes quite intense.
And even though this overwhelm is just so much sometimes.
And even though overwhelm is so much sometimes.
I choose to feel present in this moment.
I choose to feel present in this moment.
I choose to recognize that it's not all in my control.
I choose to recognize that it's not always in my control.
And I choose to do my best.
And I choose to do my best.
Yeah. And I'm allowing myself to do my best.
And I'm allowing myself to do my best.
So even though there's so much overwhelm,
Even though there's so much overwhelm,
I trust that I will do my best.
I trust that I'll do my best.
Yeah. And my best is good enough.
And my best is good enough.
Yeah. Even with all the overwhelm around me.
Even with all the overwhelm around me.
Even with all the chaos that surrounds me sometimes.
Even with all the chaos that surrounds me sometimes.
Yeah. I choose to do my best.
I choose to do my best.
Yeah. And my best is good enough.
And my best is good enough.
Yeah. So just take your arms down. Close your eyes. Take a really big deep breath in. Maybe just give your hands a little shake. Wiggle your shoulders a little bit. Just check in with your body. We've just done 1 or 2 rounds. So we've not done not many. We've just done 1 or 2 rounds. And just notice. Just check in with that number. Notice how that number feels. Does it feel like it's gone up? Does it feel like it's gone down? Does it feel like it stayed the same?
I feel ready for the day.
Mine's moved down. I do.
Yours moved down. Yours moved. Yeah. How much does it move down?
I reckon it's gone down to probably a 2.
So that's that's more than 50%. You're at a 5 and you've gone down to a 10. So just because of time, we're not ready to do more, but I will explain the next part. Just with 2, we just did 2 rounds of tapping then.
Yeah.
2 full rounds of tapping. And what really powerful, what you notice, what I was doing was saying what you're feeling and then giving you an option to move something different, but not doing what I would call I am, because if you say I am, that's not the truth, because you're not feeling that, you're feeling overwhelmed. So you give yourself the option to say I allow myself, or I choose to move to something different, rather than I am, because when people talk about the language is very important with EFT. If you start saying I am, it's like, well, I don't feel that. I am not. I don't feel strong. I don't feel powerful. I don't feel these things. So you've got to be very careful with the language. So, but just with 2 rounds, Natasha feels like she's ready for the day, and your overwhelm has come down by over 50%.
Yeah.
So if we did 2 more rounds, we'd probably get you down to probably a 0. And then you'd be like, right, I'm ready for the world now.
Gosh, I feel definitely more centered from that.
Yeah. And that's just 2 rounds. And I would always say we do between 3 to 5 rounds.
Okay, that's great.
What we would do is we go, so now we've got you, now I know where your numbers are, we'd go in and do another 2 or 3 rounds of tapping and then see where you were again.
God, that was beautiful. No, thank you so much for sharing that with us, because it's something we can come back to as well. We'll have the recording and we can do a few more rounds.
Yeah,
that's great.
My tapping Tuesdays, because I do this kind of thing each
week.
week.
Definitely have to check that out, and I will.
I want to
all
on
the
Instagram.
Instagram,
Oh, that's great.
Is there any other links we can discuss in the emails after? But just for quickly now, where can we find you? Where can we work with you more and follow what you're doing?
So you can go to my website, which is www.elanedrahealth.com, and everything is on there. I'm on Instagram, which is at Ela_Nedra, ELANEDRA, so Ela_Nedra, and TikTok is Ela_Nedra. On my website, there's a WhatsApp group that you can join as well, or you can always contact me on WhatsApp. I'm much better on WhatsApp than on email. I do lots of Tapping Tuesday videos. I've got my course coming up on the 8th of June, and I'm always doing new events with tapping as well. So I'm doing another event, a tapping workshop event with breath work and sound healing, combining some sound healing and
sounds interesting.
And Reiki, and that's on the 15th of June. So there's lots of things that I'm always doing, incorporating tapping, because tapping is always at the heart of everything I do. But yeah, find me on Instagram, Ela_Nedra. That's probably the best place to start.
Brilliant. And again, I will follow up. I'll send the email out along with the recording as well. And all those details will be there, and all the details about the upcoming course as well.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been
wonderful.
Thank
you so much for your time.
Oh, it's been lovely.
Great. Loved it. Fascinating.
Thank you so much.
Have a lovely day, Rebecca, and hopefully we'll see you on
Yeah,
a training
definitely.
very soon.
Yeah, wonderful. Thanks, Natasha.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Take
Bye.
care.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Go. I'm stop.